If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 225 of the Yapping Yankees podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike Scudero, the Yankee Yapper with the best yapper in all the land, here on June 30th, 2024. Well, June 30th for you, actually, because as I had said on last week's episode, I got a bit of a busy Sunday ahead of me this weekend as I'm going to be out throughout basically exactly the time in the middle of the day that I usually like to tape, or even into the evening. I'm not going to be around. So I had to do an interesting sort of maneuver for this weekend, and it's been a little while since I've done this, where I have to actually record on Saturday evening. It's pretty late at night right now. It's almost 9 o'clock at night on Saturday. Getting this out of the way now so I can have it done for tomorrow. This episode's going to be out much earlier than usual. It's probably going to be out, I would probably say, either around game time on Sunday, which is when you're listening to this now, or at some point throughout the rest of the week. I don't know when you're listening to this. It's on the internet for whenever you want to listen, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud, of course. But at the time it'll be released, it's going to either be before today's game, the final game of the 4-game set against the Blue Jays, or around game time, possibly. It's going to be out much earlier in the day than usual, so I had to maneuver it in a little bit of a tricky manner for this weekend just because of what I got going on today. But it'll be back to normal next weekend and all the weekends to follow. Granted, I don't have anything else going on. Even though next weekend I'll be a bit busy as well because it's the weekend immediately following the 4th of July, which is this Thursday, which is absolutely freaking bonkers to think about. That time continues to go this incomprehensibly quickly. But anyway, yes, just for time purposes, so nobody is confused, even though you're listening to this maybe later on Sunday and you're wondering why, even though it's released earlier in the day, if you're listening to it later on in the day after I've usually watched Sunday's afternoon games, typically, unless it's a night game, but it is an afternoon game today when you're listening, but tomorrow for me at the time I'm taping right now. But just in case you happen to be confused as to why, this episode's out today, but he's not talking about today's game, the final one in the 4-game set against the Blue Jays, well, that's why. Just to avoid any sort of confusion, it's because I'm taping this here on Saturday night, not any point on Sunday. Just so everybody's aware of that, just so nobody is confused. Just thought I'd get that right out of the way, first thing, right at the top of this show. Otherwise, other than hoping you're all doing well, of course, and you had yourselves a nice week and are enjoying your weekend as always, there's a group of people that are very much not enjoying their weekends. And those happen to be the men that make it very difficult for us to root for them these days. Yes, our beloved New York Yankees. Beloved being the operative term here. I'm not saying I love them any less. Just a little comedy because of how miserable they've been to watch lately. Yes, this has been a bit of a discussion now for the last couple of weeks. Everybody's setting off the alarms that the Yankees look like crap. Well, unfortunately, this past week was no different whatsoever. It was so bad. Where do I begin? Well, why don't I start with the fact that mostly every single game of late feels like it is over before it even ever had a chance to begin in the first place, which I guess brings me to the pitching. Which is unfortunate because, as we know, up until about a couple of weeks ago, the pitching, despite the offense having its also absolutely phenomenal games, the pitching was the real backbone of this team, especially before Cole came back. And it's not an indictment on Cole or anything, but before he did come back, for the most part, the starting rotation was just absolutely glorious. The bullpen up until a few weeks ago was also absolutely glorious for a while there, except for your few inevitable little hiccups, which is bound to happen no matter what. All of these things were fantastic, talking about the top rotation in baseball, or amongst the top, and a top bullpen in the game. As usual, the Yankees have had for years now. And now you're seeing the cracks starting to form in that a bit because most of the bullpen consists of guys that they picked up who have been DFA'd about 10,000 times prior now. And you're starting to see the effects of that and starting to see the wrinkles in the fold here a little bit. Bullpen has been a rough watch. And the starting rotation especially, which was so fantastic prior, well, it feels like for the vast majority of the last 2 weeks, especially the last 10 days or so, like I said before, the game is already either over or in a deficit before you even have a chance to blink after first pitch. It's very frustrating. It is not a way that is conducive to win games because you're immediately putting your team in a hole early. And that's what feels like has happened for the vast majority of the games for the better part of the last week and a half. And we go through the recap later on in the show and recap what happened this past week. You're going to notice that that was a very frequent theme of this past week's games. Being down before the team even knows what in the hell hit them. And that's very frustrating. Very frustrating brand of baseball to watch. Early deficits every single day. The offense, with the exception of the second game against the Blue Jays yesterday, 2 days ago for you, at the time you're listening, absolutely dead. Except for Aaron Judge, of course, who continues to just leave jaws dropping everywhere across the world at this point, to be honest, with his gameplay. But even Soto again recently. I speak particularly with the huge hit he had on Friday, but also came with another dose of a negative that resulted in missing today's game here on Saturday. Well, yesterday for you. I think I could stop saying that. I think you get the point of when I'm recording. But anyway, even some bad to go along with that. And that's another aspect of the team that's really been slipping of late because we know for the better part of the first couple of months or so, a department that the Yankees were actually pretty fortunate in, for the most part, they had their difficulties in it somewhere in some places. And also they avoided their fair share of potential catastrophes. That could have been completely season-altering injuries. They avoided a good amount of those. But also another piece of a negative before that huge hit that Soto had in this Blue Jays series. He had a sliding play into home plate on what was a genius mind game display on the bases with him and Aaron Judge just completely turning the Blue Jays all around, resulting in a run, but Soto coming home during a big play at the plate in order to tie said game at 1 at the time on Friday. It looked like he took a big brunt of his slide into home plate on the left side of his body. But then upon watching the replay, you saw his right hand sort of like slammed into the dirt kind of hard, I guess, to sort of break the rest of the slide where the left side of his body hit the ground, but then he sort of like turned over to his right side, and his right hand slammed into the ground kind of hard to sort of break that, I suppose. And after that, he still managed to have himself a very nice game, couple of hits, one of those being the massive home run I mentioned earlier, which we'll talk about later. But then today, late scratch out of the lineup, gets testing done on it, apparently comes back negative, which is very good news, and now they're saying he could possibly miss tomorrow. Monday's an off day, of course, but he could possibly even miss tomorrow, so then another 3 days off in a row, which is very reminiscent of what took place with him in the Dodgers series. Instead, he just missed 3 games in a row, then it'll be 2 in a row here with the off day on Monday to add to it, but another couple of days off for Soto with this thing, and I was really confused about it at first because when they said the right hand, I watched the replay again, and before I noticed his hand slamming into the dirt, which even after that I was a little confused. I'm like, wow, that really screwed his hand up that much. I was like, it really looked like his left side really took the brunt of the slide. So it's just weird. So they say it bruised up on him today, and that's why he was still able to do what he did after the slide yesterday. Like, he still went on to have a very fine game, and that a lot of people confused. But I heard it was because it really swelled up on him today, and he apparently had a tough time swinging the bat. So, I mean, listen, you hope that tomorrow is all he misses, if he even is out. It sounds like he is going to be out on Sunday for the final game. And unfortunately, that does mean that the Yankees are unfortunately likely on their way to lose their 5th consecutive series, because we all know what this team turns into whenever they're missing either or both of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. So if he's out of the lineup on Sunday for the final game, then I think we all know what's going to happen. It's very likely that these guys are getting all set to lose their 5th series in a row. And yes, That would mean they lost the one against the Mets, as we well know, and embarrassingly so. And with the exception of Friday, when I had thought that they had started to forge a new path back to reawakening, then they have a game like today here on Saturday. So it's just been very frustrating. The injury bad luck continues. The starting rotation is the Hindenburg. The bullpen is the Hindenburg. And the offense just continues to give me whiplash with a game like yesterday on Friday, and then a game like today here on Saturday where they have a tough time even getting out of their own way, with the exception of, obviously, Aaron Judge. Because when it's only him there in the 3-hole, not only is it easier to pitch around him, because there's really nobody else of threat based off of how many people have been and especially with Soto being out, if you pitch around Judge, there just truly is not much more you have to do as far as navigating the Yankee lineup, unfortunately, these days. Because again, well, like I've said, we've had the tendency of going through the lineup, and I guess it's really easy to go through as of this point because there really isn't even much to say on the matter. Because with the exception of yesterday on Friday, really not much has happened with them outside of Aaron Judge, to be honest with you, and Soto's recent reemergence of late, which has been very nice. But then, of course, this has to happen to him yesterday, leading to him likely missing the rest of the weekend. Volpe just continues to he's kind of trending downwards. A lot of his at-bats have been really confusing to me. He is just swinging at pitches that it's pretty apparent that he should not be going after. Just not having too many sensible at-bats right now. He's going after a lot of blatantly bad pitches that he should not be going after. He's expanding the strike zone unnecessarily, and you're noticing it's putting his numbers down quite a bit. Not to mention that bro has not hit a home run in well over a month now, so the power has vanished. He's been getting his extra base hits here and there. He's gotten his triples, he's gotten his doubles, but the home run pop has completely disappeared. He has stayed stagnant at 6 for well over a month now. And I guess this is partially why his OPS continues to decrease as well, because his OPS is now barely over 700. His average is now in the mid-260s, which isn't brutal, but his numbers, overall numbers, especially the home runs and RBIs, granted he's not a full-on power guy, so I don't really hold that against him too much. And once you're the leadoff guy, the RBIs will naturally go down at least a bit. But not too much going on, to be really honest with you. Defense is still there at shortstop as much as ever. That's great to see. But as far as the pop, I do have to say the pop has vanished. And he just really hasn't been absolutely amazing me in the last few weeks. Not really. He's got his big hits here and there, but nothing's jumping out at me. He's not really the ones that I have to go after in the lineup, though, honestly. Then you have Juan Soto, and again, like I said, Soto has started to reemerge again of late, but then thing happens with him yesterday with this freaking bruised hand. Thankfully, x-rays are clean, and I hope he's back on Tuesday. Being back tomorrow would be even nicer on Sunday, but anyway, Tuesday, I'll take that. Then you have Aaron Judge. 2 for 3 again today, another RBI. Now reaching 80. It is June 29th, as I'm recording right now. June 29th. It is not even July yet, my friends. Bro's batting .313 with 30 home runs and 80 RBIs. OPS at 1134. You know what the true amazing thing is? The amazing thing is, and they even showed this again the other night, they were comparing his 2022 season at this very point to his 2024 current season at this very point just a couple of nights ago. I believe it was after the Mets series ended. And he has improved these numbers even more as of the Blue Jays series, so this is tough to even really go by. He has 3 more RBIs at this point. His OPS is about the same, and his home runs are the same. But as of after the Mets series, 2022 in his 62 home run season for the ages. You'd think it can't get any better than that. And then Aaron Judge, the greatest player on the planet currently, beyond any sort of debate or commentary or argument whatsoever. This time of the year, a couple of years ago, in a season that I don't think anybody ever expected to be beaten nowadays by anybody else, he had a .287 average. Well, at that point, he had a .309 average, which is now even higher after today at .313. 30 home runs, pretty much even at that, comparing the two seasons. 64 RBIs at the time to meet what was 77 at the time, which is now 80 before July, which some people would gladly take as an entire season's worth of stats. Aaron Judge has all of these before July, everyone. His OPS at the time was 993, and then after the Mets series, it was 1145. It is only a tick under that right now as we speak at 1134, about 11 points lower. Big freaking whoop. He is easily surpassing his all-time 2022 season. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth right now? 313, 30 home runs, 80 RBIs right now. He is hitting 440 in his last 7 games, going into tomorrow's game on Sunday. It is ridiculous what this man continues to accomplish, and quite frankly, he is one of the very few bright spots these days that many more casual Yankee fans that don't care to watch the extreme losing of late. Some of them might even just be turning on the game temporarily just to see what he or Soto does, if I'm being really honest with you. And I can't really blame them, because otherwise it is really, really rough. Speaking of rough, how about we talk about Mr. Alex Verdugo for a second, who, for the last 2 weeks or so since the Boston series, to say his bat has gone cold, it just wouldn't be even remotely close to doing it enough justice as to how brutal it actually has been, which sucks to say, because my God, up until that Boston series, Alex Verdugo was a firecracker. He was as clutch as anybody, which we always even saw of him against the Yankees when he was on the Red Sox, and even just at any point before he came to the Yankees. Always clutch, always coming through in big spots, and he carried that right through to the first couple of months of the season until the Fenway series. And since said Fenway series, it has been brutal. I don't really even know what other words to say about it. Between the surreal, rally-killing double plays in Queens in the Mets games, between getting the hits when the team is down by 10 runs, is when he's been getting hits lately, in the clutch situations. He's almost done a complete reverse of what he's primarily known for. The team is in a big jam, got the other team on the ropes, he comes up, hits into a double play, or strikes out on a ridiculously bad pitch way out of the zone, unnecessarily expanding the zone like he was not even dreaming of doing before. And this has been a trend going on for a couple of weeks now. I mean, the numbers are just putrid. In the last 15 games, basically the last 2 weeks or so plus, again, since the Fenway series, he's 10 for his last 60 coming into Sunday. He is 4 for his last 27. The last home run he hit was in Boston. 148 average in the last week. 185 slugging, 233 on base. The double plays, the strikeouts, all of them in crucial moments for the most part. In my opinion, Verdugo has more than earned himself a demotion in the lineup to be moved down into a lower spot. The only issue is, especially with, as we spoke about on last week's episode, with Stanton out, and with a lot of key players in this lineup missing, especially with guys like Soto even missing tomorrow, Sunday, who do you put in that spot? And the answer I have for you is right now I honestly don't even really know. I really don't. But it has gotten really bad with Verdugo. He's still playing as good a left field as anybody. He still is. But it has been really hard to watch him at the plate. It's been really, really bad. Really bad. Glaber, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I've said it. You guys know I want him off the team, and that hasn't changed. I guess I'm happy for him. I mean, he's still on the team, so I'm not going to be miserable for him, of course. His success is the Yankees' success, so I wouldn't be foolish enough to root against his success. But it doesn't change the fact that I still think he belongs off this team. But it got so bad against the Mets that he had a couple of days off. Boone benched him, which I'm happy about. I'm always going on about how, you know, the Yankees often need to hold more people accountable, and maybe some more benching should happen when there's blatantly horrible baseball being played. And I'll give it to them. I'll give it to Boone and everybody else. They did that with Glaber, sat him down a couple of days. And ever since then, he actually hasn't been absolutely putrid the last couple of days. So that's been nice, I guess. But outside of that, and I hope he continues on that trend, it's not going to change the fact that I don't think he should be on this team anymore, though. I just think it has gotten so bad with him still, because even despite all of that, his batting average is still down to 223. His other numbers are still just beyond mid or horrible. 8 home runs, 32 RBIs, OPS still under 650. Last couple of weeks, batting average is still under 200. On-base percentage just is not there. It's really bad. It's just horrible what Glaber's done. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I've already given my opinion on him, well flushed out. That's really all. I just still want him off the team. I would rather someone else like Yorbeat Vivas get in the role there, if I'm being really honest with you. See what he's got. You already got a kid in Ben Rice down at first base, and I know that he got an opportunity because Rizzo went down, but still, it's gotten so bad to the point where I would just give another kid a shot. I really would. Then you have the catching tandem, Trevino and Wells. Wells, again, in his first at-bat today, another typical example of how his season's gone. Hard line drive that's just right to somebody. It's just does not stop. It's unfreaking believable. But he went 2 for 4 today in today's loss. And one of those was a 2-run shot. Granted, they were down 9-1. But Trevino has definitely come back down to earth with the bat. And the throwing down the bases continues to be a crucial issue for him as the league just continues to run rounds around him because they know there is no danger of being thrown out whatsoever. So that's definitely a big problem because you can't have every single person reaching base on a walk, a single, and then having it basically feel like a double afterwards at the end of the day because they're just going to be able to swipe second easily. The guy has a hesitation between when he gets up and when he releases the ball. And, of course, we all know how slowly he is throwing down to second. It's about 70 miles an hour. His pop time just continues to get worse and worse. So that's an issue. That's where I wish Wells would play more. And the times where Wells actually shows his potential, I wish Wells would be getting more playing time now. But I don't know. I guess it just depends on whether they're facing a righty or a lefty, which is really the dependence on a lot of things nowadays because they'll even give guys like Ben Rice days off based on these things, which is not the right thing to do. Jahmai Jones will get more playing time, and I know a lot of this, again, has to do with Stanton being out, Rizzo's down. I understand all that, but not everything should be dependent on which hand the opposing pitcher that particular day happens to be able to throw with. Then you have DJ LeMahieu. Just continues to be a nightmare. On Friday, when it marked the official 1-month anniversary since his activation, he finally thought it to be a good idea to get an extra base hit. So I guess. Let's give him a round of applause, I suppose. Because when the hell else is he ever going to hear one nowadays? But in any event, he finally thought it was a good idea. Maybe now, I've been up for a month, and today is the anniversary since my activation on May 28th against the Angels. Perhaps I should get an extra base hit before the end of, the season. So he did. It's still been the only hit he's had in days. Average still down at 175. OPS 468. You want to talk about the last couple of weeks alone? Well, the last week alone, he's 2 for his last 20. 7 for his last 48. Still no homers. The only extra base hit that he got was on Friday. Defense is still there. I've never taken issue with that or gone against that fact. Still absolutely horrible, though. Like, the offense is so bad that not even the defense could make up for it, to be honest with you. Oswaldo, he's gotten some more playing time of late. And I am happy about that, but I've even expressed that even he's come back down to earth, and he even really hasn't done much of late. So, while I would rather see him out there rather than someone like DJ, for instance, still not like an overwhelmingly better choice than anybody, really. So he's still just doing his thing, I guess. Jahmai Jones had himself a nice night last night on Friday, but he's been getting a lot more playing time than he has to get of late as well, so Trent Grisham, Showing the occasional power at the plate still, but otherwise doesn't do much at the plate. Still phenomenal defense. Absolutely fantastic defender. He made another beautiful catch in this afternoon's game. How about... Oh my God, I almost forgot about him. Why don't we finish off with him, because I can't really stand to talk about this lineup much longer without my blood pressure going up to dangerous levels. But how about the man that we spoke about on last week's episode that they had just acquired in a trade with the Oakland A's? And I'm even more surprised at this point that the Yankees managed to also get cash in this trade from them, considering how J.D. Davis looks. Trade went down last week. We spoke about it on last week's episode. How about how this man has looked to start his time on the Yankees? Oh my God. Really, really bad. I mean, against the Mets, I mean, can you imagine the epicness that could have taken place, for lack of a better word? Could you imagine the content that we could have had today, this weekend? With this man getting to make his Yankee debut against his old team, the Mets, which, if I had to say, was probably the team that he had collectively his best time with over the course of his time there. How awesome it could have been for him to debut during the Subway Series as a Yankee and to absolutely hand it to the Mets. My God, did he do anything but. Oh, God. The strikeouts looking, the non-competitive at-bats entirely. He did absolutely nothing. The only thing he did was really, in yesterday's game on Friday, getting that RBI double into the left center field gap when the Yankees were up 4-3 right after Soto's tank job. Other than that, it's not a good start for JD. Not a good start, folks. Oh my God, it's been bad. Holy crap. He looks like garbage. It is not good. I know he's brand new still. I understand that. But if he continues to hit like this, my God, when the people who have to return from the injured list do end up returning, do I hope he is gone. There is no need for that. There just is not. So, yes, moral of the story. Lineup has been brutal, but you know what? Like I said, so has the pitching. The bullpen has been falling apart at the seams, ladies and gentlemen. At the seams. Almost all of them, like I said, at this point, have been just waiver claims or just general pickups or just maybe from very minor signings or trades. No wonder they have been DFA'd a million times. Bickford, for the most part, looks like crap. Did a horrible job in today's game. Caleb Ferguson continues to not be able to squeeze out of a single jam he is put in the middle of. Even Clay Holmes continues to just allow unnecessary runs of late for a bit. And even though he hasn't looked particularly bad of late, even Weaver's gotten himself into some weird trouble here and there. Michael Tonkin continues to be one of the more reliable arms, which is just absolutely baffling. Tommy Kahnle pitched again yesterday and Friday. He actually looked to bounce back a bit, so that was nice. Tim Hill, he continues to intrigue me because I think actually a sidearm throwing lefty could be a big help to the pen. I still believe that. But the bullpen's just been weird lately. The vast majority of them feel like just like these random nobody pickups, which is the Yankees usually have a habit of turning into phenomenal pitchers. But of late, it has not been going that way. It just feels like it has not been. Every time they come in and they start to give up runs, you start to immediately sweat lately. Just missing some names out there that either went down to injury or the Yankees might have gotten rid of at some point, and it just hasn't been pretty out there. Has not been. And the rotation, like I said before, just putting the team into early holes. I mean, every single freaking day with this. It's gotten really exhausting. I mean, even going back to the Braves series at times, but especially this past week. First game against the Mets with Cole, it happened. Granted, in the second game, it didn't happen in the first inning, but then they still found themselves in a hole before they were able to get anything started offensively. That day, and even in the first inning, there was extreme trouble even in that one. And then on Thursday, first inning was a travesty. And we'll get to the man behind that because got a lot to do in talking about him. And then even yesterday's game on Friday, despite the greatness that ended up coming in that game ultimately, still, first inning, early hole. Today's game, first inning, early hole. It's just such a repetitive, exhausting theme. And it's got to be frustrating for an already struggling offense for the most part to just feel like they got to dig themselves out of a hole right at the beginning of the game. It's just beyond discouraging, but my main question is, my main point of frustration as I speak to you on this Saturday evening, finally getting to it about a half an hour in right now, but my main point of frustration, last night you find yourselves down early, you climb out of it after Juan Soto does this.
Soto swinging, Soto launching, goodbye! A 3-run shot off the bat of Juan Soto, his 20th of the season. And just like that, the Yankees lead it 4-3.
Audio and courtesy of the S Network, of course, and the amazing Ryan Ruocco primarily. But he does that after a week of just travesty after travesty, embarrassment after embarrassment. He does that, puts the Yankees epically into the lead with a moonshot deep into the Toronto night, which then results in them exploding for a total of 16 runs. 16! Against their division rival Blue Jays, who, yes, they are complete crap this year and continue to be very fraudulent. Yes, all of that is true. Not against the Yankees. Nobody seems to be fraudulent against the Yankees of late. And the Yankees have struggled a great deal against their American League East opponents, even the bad ones mostly. So, you think that after all of the recent humiliation, that something as awesome as Juan Soto doing that, and them going on to explode, score all those runs that they score, Glaber going deep, DJ getting his first extra base hit in a month, Jahmai Jones having 3 hits on the night, all these things you never could have imagined the Yankee offense possibly doing, you're out here imagining maybe this is finally the turning point. And then Saturday, today, rolls around. They can't get out of their own way. Nestor turns in a mediocre outing. He's been great of late, so I can't be too mad at him, but still turns in a mediocre outing nonetheless. The bullpen, after Jake Cousins, who they just again picked up this past week also, falls apart. Phil Bickford, Caleb Ferguson, the whole 9. And they're right back to getting embarrassed again today. So are we back to square one to recent humiliation? Who knows? My only question is, if yesterday did not do it, if that was not awakening and jolting enough to get this team's heads out of their asses, then just what is enough? What's it gonna take? That's the primary main frustration that I have as of today. I understand teams go through rough patches. I've been very patient even through this most recent one. That's been spanning multiple weeks at this point. Trying not to panic and get 2022 post-traumatic stress disorder flashbacks. I've been trying to stay reserved, and I still am for the most part. Still am. Because the Yankees' record is still fantastic. Right now, as I'm recording, I'm staying on top of the Orioles and Rangers, and it does look like the Orioles now have retaken a lead. So that's not great. They might definitively be a game over the Yankees in first place. So the Yankees lost first place for the first time since early May as well. I've been trying to be patient. I still will be. They're going to be facing the Orioles again at least once more, even before the All-Star break. I was looking through the schedule again earlier on, so I'm trying not to get too bent out of shape necessarily about the whole Yankees-O's thing. And yeah, they will be playing each other once more in Baltimore right before the All-Star break. It's the last series leading into it, actually. But, so I'm not trying to flip out too much about that. I've been trying to stay calm, trying to be patient, waiting for them to just finally break out of this thing. But with Juan Soto likely not being in the lineup tomorrow, which does not help a single freaking thing. I do not care that Cole is taking the mound tomorrow. Without Soto, it's that much bleaker for an offense that has already mostly had a very tough time day in and day out. They do not need their generational talent superstar to be missing to make things even worse. Not saying it's impossible if they win to end the Blue Jays series, but it certainly hurts their chances. If yesterday didn't do it on Friday, what's it gonna take? What is it going to take? They even had Marcus Stroman throwing a temper tantrum after that slow ground ball that Vlad Guerrero Jr. hit to shortstop that did not result in a crucial double play. Whether or not you agree with Stroman yelling, and we'll get to that, talk about that in a little bit as well, which I'm just not even in the mood to discuss because people have just beaten it to a pulp, and I wish they would shut up about it already and move on. But since I have not spoken about it on the show as of yet, I have to at least acknowledge it because that's the responsible thing to do. I just don't feel like doing it, but I will. So you had him getting nuts. You had Soto doing what he did and the team exploding for 16 runs, and the very next day this happens. I know that Soto was not in the lineup today as well. That does not help. I understand. But things are falling apart. I mean, you could still be reserved and baffled, I think it's safe and fair to say, and still acknowledge that things have been really bad of late. Because if the Yankees do lose the final game against the Blue Jays, they will have lost 5 series in a row now. And the importance of that cannot be overstated. Because when you lose that many series in a row, chances are you're playing some pretty brutal baseball. And the Yankees have been of late. It's been really bad. Really. I mean, they've lost 9 of their last 12. 10 of their last 13. Going back to the second game of the Boston series. 10 of 13. Think about that for a second. And then, once that second is over, stop thinking about it immediately. Before you get the temptation that I've been getting of late while watching Yankees baseball, to do a backflip off your roof and land directly on your neck. Damn! Damn is right, Simmons. But yeah, that kind of gameplay will definitely give you 5 series losses in a row. And even before that, it was no good, really. Really, since the Dodgers series, they've been off. Yeah, they had the good Kansas City Royals series. But since the Dodgers series, that Royals series has been the only series that they have won. And the Dodgers series was a little while ago now. It was at the beginning of the month, folks. Towards the beginning of the month. We're about to hit July in a couple of days. So, yeah, not great. It's been a tough watch with the New York Yankees of late. Every aspect of the game is coming apart. A lot of guys are slumping perfectly at the same time. The lineup, outside of the first 3, especially missing Stanton and some other key players in the lineup you were really hoping would just continue to play well. As long as that keeps happening, after Judge, it's mainly a legitimate black hole. And it's not good there at all. The starting rotation has not been turning in the quality outings that it was doing for so many months. Cole is not back to himself as of yet, not at 100% capacity, and still working his arm back. Was not encouraging in Queens, and I did not like the explanations that they were giving as to why his velocity had to be lowered at times and why he was throwing 92-mile-an-hour cookies down the middle to get killed in all directions by all kinds of different guys, including former Yankee Harrison Bader, who just took great pleasure in bending the Yankees over in the middle of the week. Same thing as IKF this weekend on the Blue Jays. I guess these former Yankees, they love to just overplay out of their minds, completely outdo themselves when they see the Yankees again. I guess that's the theme here. Great. It's fun to watch. But, yeah, getting back to Cole, did not like the explanation for why the velo went down. It's like, oh, it's like the clutch of a car, you know. You go really hard the first inning, then you got to take your foot off and ease up, and then maybe take the velo down. No, taking velo down to me sounds like you had some more ramping up work to do, brother. That's what it sounds like to me. I am no certified or even self-proclaimed baseball expert, necessarily. And I'm not a baseball player, so I don't know what it's like to actually be out there on a professional level and compete every 5 days in the instance of a starting pitcher. But to me, it sounds like if you can't give it your all for at least a decent amount of time. I understand he's on a pitch limit right now. He's not 100% capacity in that area. I'm totally fine with that part. Still building up the pitch count. But if you're around like 30, 40 pitches and you already got to like ramp down just to push ahead, that sounds like you could have used a couple of more rehab outings to me, my man. That's at least what it sounds like to me. I don't know. And I was the one preaching for weeks on end over here about the fact of how the Yankees are in such a great position that they have the luxury to not have to rush anybody back at the time. Now things are getting a little hairy. But at the time I was preaching, there's really no need to rush that many people back in an urgent manner. And now I feel like they might have taken Cole back, maybe a rehab start or two, too soon. I wouldn't have been bothered if he needed until the very beginning of July in order to ensure that he can really give it his all for about 5 innings or so, and maybe about 70 pitches or so, and then ultimately build higher and higher from there with the pitch count. But he was throwing 92, even 91 at times. It was getting low. I wasn't even necessarily concerned there was anything wrong with his elbow, but I was just thinking, like, maybe if he needs to do that throughout the start, like maybe that is something he's doing to ensure he can go maybe a little bit deeper into the game over the first start that he had against the Orioles. Like, maybe that's the case. But even if that is the case, to have to go lower again down to like 92, are you back too soon maybe? So things are just weird. The team is off, and I hate this word, but it is valid. The vibes are off. They seemed better after what was going on yesterday when they were just blown up again, and they looked happy. Everybody had smiles on their faces. And they go back out today and have the game they had today. It's just really, really frustrating. And the only overarching thought I have coming into today is that if yesterday did not do the trick and really jolt them awake and get them going here, then what the hell is it going to take? I only hope that Cole could deliver a half-decent outing tomorrow, and maybe the offense can pull off some sort of all-time miracle, even without Soto potentially, and just grab a win heading into the off day any way you can. Any way you can. Just figure something out. At this point, I'd take anything I can get. I even said the same thing yesterday on Friday at the beginning of the game when the Yankees were pulling those mind games with Soto and Judge with the Blue Jays on the bases, and they actually managed to make it successful. I was even saying I will take a run any way I can get them nowadays. And they ended up exploding after that, so that was nice. And then I said the same thing at today's game here on Saturday. Of course, not the same thing happened, even nearly. But that's besides the point. The point is, Yankees baseball of late absolutely blows chunks. And we'll continue to talk about that later on as we get to recap. But for now, that's my updated prognosis of the team, if you will, as of the weekend of June 30th as we get ready to head into July and creep ever closer to the All-Star break of 2024. But that's my feedback for this Sunday overall, people. But we're going to continue to talk about all the news happening, roster, injury-wise, and obviously talk about this past week's games. Since I'm recording here on Saturday night, I will not be talking about anything pertaining to Sunday, of course, because at the time I'm taping, Sunday has not happened yet. So we'll talk about this afternoon's game here on Saturday. We'll talk about the first 2 games of the Blue Jays series and the 2 games against the Mets as well. We already spoke about last Sunday's game last Sunday, obviously, so we won't have anything to talk about there. They had an off day on Monday, so only 5 games to go over this week. A little bit less than usual, but hey, recap will still be very intriguing, especially with the few things I have to say about a certain somebody, or maybe even a couple of certain somebodies that I did not get to touch on here in the open of the show that has now lasted nearly 45 minutes, but we'll get to them at some point. For now, let's move on to the news of this past week. Everything that has happened in injury news, roster news. This includes, by the way, what I mentioned in the open regarding Juan Soto. Keep that in mind, his bruised right hand in which the x-rays came back clean for. And we only hope that we see him again, possibly on Sunday to end the series, but most likely, and hopefully at least, on Tuesday, when the Yankees return home to face the Cincinnati Reds. But when it comes to this past week's roster news, we actually start all the way on Wednesday, because with the news forefront, the start of the week was actually pretty quiet. So the Yankees had ultimately outrighted Victor Gonzalez. We know that they had DFA'd him. I spoke about that on last week's episode. He ended up getting outrighted back to the AAA roster since nobody picked him up. He cleared through waivers. So that was the deal with Victor. And they also, this is some big news, a guy that I've been mentioning for some time now every single week on the injury updates, Scott Effross. It actually had some news on him finally. They transferred his rehab assignment, which just started recently, from single A to triple A. So that's actually a very intriguing topic, Scott Effross. Some people may not even remember the guy, and to be honest with you, if you're not a diehard Yankee fan and you don't follow as closely as I do, if you told me you didn't remember this man, I wouldn't entirely blame you, because this was one of the arms they picked up at the 2022 an at the time young, very appealing, solid right-handed throwing relief pitcher who was also under a lot more years of control, which made him even more appealing, could definitely be a factor in the bullpen for years. And then, of course, obviously later on in the 2022 season, came down with a lot of injury issues, ended up getting Tommy John surgery, and just when we thought he would finally be back to start the 2024 season, around spring training time, it was revealed that in December he started to experience some back problems, and he has been out with those ever since. So we have not seen Bro pitch in almost 2 full calendar years at this point. All we heard was that he was going to be back at some point this summer. That's adding up to be the truth because, I mean, at this point, if he's rehabbing in AAA, he's getting pretty damn close. And I have no idea, I don't think anybody has really any idea how he's going to be when he finally retakes a major league mound for the first time in, again, almost 2 full calendar years. But we all know right here that the most important thing is that the Yankees of late are desperately in need of bullpen help. There are multiple names out in that pen that could very well be DFA'd tomorrow, and nobody would miss them. So any and all potential bullpen help, even that of Scott Effross, who possibly has a remarkable amount of rust to shake off, anyone is welcomed. I do not even care at this point. So even just for his own personal accomplishments, which I can only imagine what he is feeling after all this time missed, but especially for the Yankee bullpen, good for Scott. He's getting close. I am very, very interested to see what he's got when he's finally ready to be reactivated at the end of his rehab assignment. But that was the latest news on him, that his assignment was advanced up to AAA as of Wednesday, the 26th. As of Thursday, the 27th, after he had thrown a lot of pitches in the final game against the Mets on Wednesday night, and did not do a great job at doing that. They were really just hoping to leave him out there for as much as possible amidst the embarrassment of that evening to try to eat up as many outs as he possibly could and try to save the rest of the pen. He did throw a crap ton of pitches, and he did give up a crap ton of runs, but I was kind of hoping they would keep him up here because I want him to keep on building at the major league level because he's got some good potential. But they ended up re-optioning Yoendrys Gomez, so he's back down in AAA. Clayton Andrews, who they had also look to DFA once again, as we were talking about last week, because he just isn't a great pitcher. He actually elected free agency in lieu of accepting the assignment, so he's in free agency. And they ended up recalling Jake Cousins from AAA. And we saw him in today's game. He did a very nice job maneuvering out of some trouble in the middle of today's game here on Saturday, so he's been back in the bullpen. His stuff actually looks really solid. But I'm sure he'll find a way to screw that up in the coming days, like most people in the Yankee bullpen have of late. But I guess we'll see about that. Obviously, we have the Juan Soto news. We'll, of course, continue to follow that closely as the days go along. But again, we're hoping to see him back either on Sunday for the final Blue Jays game, and if not then I guess as soon as possible after that, which would be Tuesday against the Reds at Yankee Stadium, because the Yankees cannot afford to have either Judge or Soto out for any sort of extended amount of time and be expected to win many games. That's just not the way it works. So keep on following him closely. I'm sure every single one of us will be, but again, that bruised right hand for which the x-rays came back negative, thank Jesus H. Christ himself. And that's the latest on that. As far as the remainder of the guys who were noteworthy having gotten hurt on the team, the latest on all of these guys, obviously you have Ian Hamilton out in the bullpen, one of the many names out in the pen who were usually effective in the past and either struggled a bit this year or are dealing with injury issues leading to the Yankee bullpen's demise of late that I was mentioning before. We obviously know that as of last week, he was placed on the injured list for the 50,000th time this year and in his total time with the Yankees with that lat strain, and at the time he was expected to be shut down for 3 to 4 weeks. Obviously, some time has passed since then, and Boone did say that as of today, he is rehabbing, but he has not started to throw as of yet. But that lat seems to just be giving him issues this year, so just rehabbing, no throwing as of late. Then you have Giancarlo Stanton. Boone also gave a recent update that he's been running on a treadmill again, so there's some activity. But other than him moving around and just doing basic things like that, he has not resumed any sort of baseball activity. So they're just getting him to regularly move around and just continue to progress. Hopefully they're expecting possibly in a late July return. That's what They can hope for it the most again. Just cannot express, like I said last week and went off a tirade on, especially after having seen the work that he put in this offseason and feeling bad for him to a certain degree because of that. I just can't say enough how disappointed I am in the fact that he is hurt again. I really can't. Really stuck my neck out again for him and said he'd play at least 145 and hit like 40 home runs, which he was more or less on pace for. And that's the shame of it, the fact that he was actually being productive again this year, running very counter to what he was doing in 2023. But gotta just continue to sit through this crap some more and wait for him to come back. Don't really have any other choice. Jason Dominguez, I mean, he's still not really doing much. So, missing at least 8 weeks of action. We know that. We spoke about that before already. Not expected back until at least mid to late August, I would say. Just sucks more than I can even begin to fathom or explain into words. I just can't. Already spoke about it last week, but I'm still in disbelief. It's just amazing how much the baseball gods hate the Yankees with the injuries. It's amazing. When there was no fit for him on the roster because the Yankees just had too good of a thing going overall, let alone in the outfield specifically with Verdugo and Judge and Soto and the whole 9 yards. And there was just no room for Dominguez, no way to really bring him up, and no real reason to disrupt the mojo. Like, even I was saying that for weeks. We were all talking about it. And then right when they could have used him, when people start to get hurt, things start to go south a little bit, hitters start to immensely struggle, and you possibly could have used his bat, maybe to even replace some injured people, he strains his oblique. The timing was perfect. Like it is all the time. I cannot rant about this enough without you wanting to just rip your ears out and say, Mike, enough already. We get it. And I wouldn't entirely blame you, but that doesn't mean I can't be upset about it. As far as everybody else on the team, you have Cody Poteet, of course, with the right tricep strain as well. He was placed on the injured list back on June 18th, as we know. I think he's only about a week to a week and a half away from possibly being able to throw again, but he was doing fantastic, so that was really sucky to see as well. But that's the latest on him, really. Then you have Clark Schmidt and, the continued extended injuries more so. Hopefully in August for Clark. With his lat strain, a lot of lat difficulty on this team. Lat, hip, groin in some areas, and just hamstring. The lower body stuff is just annoying. But nonetheless, Clark actually did resume his throwing program on June 24th. So, at least he's doing some sort of activity again. I guess that's the main takeaway. I was under the impression that he was going to go a bit longer even without throwing, but I guess they chose it now as the time. But that's the latest on him, really. Then you have Nick Birdie. He's actually making a little bit of progress. He's actually headed down to Tampa so that he can do a live batting practice session on Sunday, tomorrow, the 30th, today for you. But he's been getting a lot of PCP injections, that platelet plasma injection, whatever it is they call it. He's been getting that a lot to treat his issue. Sounds like it's been helping him. But that's the latest on him. He's headed down to Tampa to do some live batting practice. Then you have Lou Trevino. He's one that I would have expected by now to have made some significant progress on his way back, but he really hasn't. He's finally resumed throwing as of late recently, but I expect him to be damn near back by now. They kept on saying by summer, but then in April he experienced more trouble with the elbow inflammation, which is really bad. And now he's resumed throwing. So, I don't know. They confirmed no damage with the UCL even after his Tommy John recovery, so that's good. But he had more inflammation trouble. They gave him more rest, and it sidelined his recovery even more. And now he's only recently just resumed throwing again. So that's that. Scott Efros gave an update on him before. JT Brubaker, who we mentioned the Yankees traded for a while back, despite him recovering from Tommy John surgery as well for a long time now, kind of nonsensically acquiring him, but We've been following his recovery as the months continue to pass since his acquisition. He started his minor league rehab assignment on June 19th in Single A, and now he just continues to find his way back. That's really the latest on him. They're sounding optimistic about him, so, and listen, like we said, they can use any and all pitching help they can get, but based off of how Brubaker's done throughout his career, I wouldn't really get too amped for him. Just some personal advice on my part. Then you have John Birdie, his left calf strain. Some people may have forgotten about him as well. And if he is to come back before just about anybody else that could really help out in the infield before the trade deadline possibly, I would easily put him over DJ. No question. So, we know that he was transferred to the 60-day himself with all the 40-man roster maneuvering. Back on the 12th he was, but he's hoping that he'll be back in a few more weeks. So I guess maybe late July, maybe. But I don't know, it's tough. And then lastly, of course, you have Anthony Rizzo. Not much of an update on him. Apparently, as of a few days ago, he was still in some pain. Back around like June 20th-ish. Still swollen and painful. So, he's going through day-to-day treatment, I suppose, but he's still not expected to resume any and all baseball activities for about another 4 or 5 weeks. So, if he returns at all this season, which honestly, I don't really have any use for him to anyway at this point, it'll be for a brief time because he's still got a long time to go. And then you have those who you really shouldn't even expect to see back this year. Everson Pereira, we spoke about him getting Tommy John surgery. Chase Hampton, he's got his sprained UCL as well. They don't even know when he's going to be back. And Johnny Lowe, obviously, next year as well. So that's the general injury update. And other than the general injury update and the couple of things that happened injury-wise this past week, especially with Juan Soto, just in the last couple of days, other than that stuff, just a couple of things with the roster. Not much else took place news-wise this past week, so next segment, all of our favorite ones to do when the Yankees are playing crappy baseball. Weekly recap. Yapping Yankees time machine. Let's go. Back at the beginning of the week. Yay. Damn it, Vader. Always got to be out here exposing how I really feel. Beginning of the week. Off day Monday, as I said earlier. On to the Mets. This series sucked. So embarrassing. Had a bad start to it right off the bat, guys. When the Yankees had bases loaded in the first inning with nobody out. No one out. That's how I knew this game. Even if it got interesting at the end, I could not care less. I knew it was going to be a loss. You just felt it. Volpe started off the game with a line drive single. Soto walks. Judge walks. And the man batting cleanup, for reasons I could not tell you, Gleyber Torres steps up to the plate, has himself another awful at-bat. The entire night, he was swinging at anything and everything given to him, no matter where the location was. He strikes out. Verdugo strikes out. And J.D. Davis, in his first at-bat as a Yankee against his old team, the Mets, which would have been epic to see him do well against. Because, again, I think out of the span of his whole career, some of his best days were in Queens. Would have been nice to start that with the Yankees in a good way by having retribution against his old team. Instead, he gutlessly strikes out looking himself. So the Mets strike out the side and escape with the definition of their backs up on the ropes. And the Yankees just completely screwed themselves. Bases loaded, no one out. And it just went downhill from there. Cole got into massive trouble in the bottom of the first. Did allow a run at the end of it. I thought he was going to find a way out of it, but he did not. Fortunately, if Verdugo's going to do anything, these days it's on defense. He did manage to throw out Pete Alonso at home to prevent a second run from scoring and things getting even worse. But it would get even worse anyway, because then in the bottom of the second, with Cole's lower velocity, Vientos and Bader each went deep off, and like I said, Bader just killed the Yankees in this series. Love to watch that. Who doesn't love to watch that? Oh, every Yankee fan on the planet. That's right. I forgot about that. Bottom of the fourth, Mark Vientos hits a home run. Brandon Nimmo hits a 2-run shot. It just got really bad. So Cole's final line, unfortunately, after a pretty decent first start back, his second start, nothing like it. Took his first L of the year. ERA now up to 9. Not that it matters too much because he's only pitched a total of 8 innings. But 4 innings in this one, 7 hits, 6 runs, 4 walks. And he didn't even strike anybody out. Very unlike Cole. Had a lot of people concerned. Bickford came in, gave up 3 more runs of his own, 2 earned, because of a ridiculous Gleyber Torres error. And fortunately, well, because enough damage had already been done, 9 runs worth of it. Fortunately, after that, Tonkin, Hill, and Canely came in after that and pitched scoreless frames of their own. The Yankee offense, well, all they really managed to do was, well, a Soto home run to get it started, but they were down by a score of 6-0 at that point, so it made it 6-1. And then down 9-1 after Bickford and Gleyber Torres did their damage. In the top of the 7th, Aaron Judge hit an RBI double. Austin Wells got an RBI single. And then later on after that, incredibly so, and in typical fashion against the Mets, well, against anybody nowadays. Even though he typically does do very well against the Mets, he does well against everybody nowadays. So not a personal indictment on them. But hey, I got to find something to celebrate about. Aaron Judge did this.
High fly ball, right center. Bader back on the track at the wall. See ya! A grand slam! The ball kept carrying. We got a ball game.
God almighty. Listen to that crowd. So yeah, that actually did make it a ball game. Michael Kay was not wrong. But then unfortunately they didn't have any more runs to give. Top of the 9th, nothing went down. Yankees lost 9-7. It did get interesting, mainly thanks to Aaron Judge, as I said, but still, especially after that first inning, you just had a feeling that you knew what the end result was going to be nonetheless. And again, throughout this week, it continued into the beginning part of the week, up until the Rangers went over to Baltimore later on in the week. But fortunately, the Yankees were able to hold on to first place much longer than they deserved to because the Orioles kept on losing themselves. I think their losing streak went to 5 games in a row at one point. And I even just checked the score right now here on Saturday night. They just beat the Rangers again. So for the first time in a long time, early-ish May, the Yankees in the games back column are officially in second place. They were tied up until today for the last couple of days, but the Orioles still were in first because not only do they have the head-to-head advantage, but their win percentage was better because they haven't played the same amount of games. But now definitively, as of the Yankees' loss to the Blue Jays this afternoon here on Saturday, and the Orioles winning tonight against the Rangers here on Saturday, in the games back column, the Yankees are officially, like fully in second place, even though they already were before today because of the win percentage differences. So they're honestly lucky they're not even worse off. They're lucky that the Orioles went on that 5-game losing streak. They could be like nearly 5 games out by now, for all we know. So we're lucky that's all that is. And let's just hope that they can make the best of it going forward. We've been saying a lot of that, and just to see the same crap every single day. But yeah, it's just not good. So yeah, this game was an absolute disgrace from jump, as I said. The 1 through 3 hitters, primarily Soto, Judge, and maybe a little bit with Wells there too with his RBI single, but 4 through 9 went 1 for 20. 1 for 20, along with Cole being a nightmare. That's not a winning formula. 1 through 3 alone, with Judge, Soto, Volpe. In a combined 11 at-bats, were 4 for 11, and Judge was 5 of the 7 runs. That's a similar trend that you'll be seeing for the following night, too. Judge being all of the runs. All 2 of the runs that they managed to score on a 2-run shot by him in the 6th inning. That is all the Yankees managed to score all of that night. So a total of 9 runs in 2 games. 7 of them were driven in by Aaron Judge. He was nearly the entire offense both days combined. just to really add extra effect to what a travesty this series in Queens truly was. Blown bases loaded, nobody out in the first game, in the first inning. 4 through 9 hitters going 1 for 20. Would have been 0 for everything if it weren't for one Trevino single. Because then Wells later pinch hit for him later on in the game. And in game 2, Luis Gil taking the hill, he was really not himself either. 4 1/3, 5 runs, 4 hits, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts. Unfortunately for him, he might be reaching his limit. That's what I was starting to think, because all of us have thought of this day with great fear at one point or another of the possibility of Luis Gil's arm possibly getting tired and maybe having to limit his innings a little bit, because in the major leagues, the most innings he's ever pitched in a year was in 2021. That was 29 1/3 innings. 2022, before he went down for his Tommy John surgery, in the big leagues, he only pitched 4 innings. Right now, after his start with the Mets, he has pitched 85 2/3 innings, which is approaching somewhat the most innings he's ever thrown anywhere in a single season, and you're factoring that he's coming off Tommy John surgery. And he looks like he's really starting to slip. Some of his control issues starting to rear their ugly heads again. You're seeing the walks go back up a bit, strikeouts being a bit down even, not going as deep as he was, giving up far more runs than usual. So it's just really, it's getting a little scary with Luis Gil now, and it's really unfortunate. Like I said, just the perfect storm. All of the bad that us Yankee fans were envisioning could have happened to this team just happens to be going on all at once. And that's why you've seen a lot of the gameplay that we have seen for as long as we have now. For the better part of the last 2.5-ish weeks or so, it's been really a tough watch, as I've said. So you combine Gil having a rough start, a massive rain delay in the middle of this game, coming back from the rain delay for some reason. Yoendris Gomez having to eat as many innings as he possibly could. Caleb Ferguson not even recording a single out before giving up a run of his own. Shocking, I know. Tim Hill even giving up a run in his final inning in 2/3, in the final inning 2/3 of the game that he was pitching. Ultimately, the Mets scored 12 runs in the second game to the Yankees 2. So combined in this series, the Mets scored 21 runs in 2 games to the Yankees 9. Well, on average, that's not too brutal a number on average for within 2 days for an offense, but you see the pitching. The kind of runs that they have allowed this past week, especially in this Mets series, just awful. And it has not been great in the Blue Jays series either, guys. So the Yankees got swept embarrassingly so. And I was even saying this, I think I tweeted this as well on Wednesday. I even continue to watch the game after that rain delay for reasons I cannot tell you. But I guess that's how real of a fan I actually am, just in reality. But I think I even tweeted this out, that amidst all this going on when the Mets had mercilessly piled on the way that they did, I even said that in my 17 years watching Yankees baseball, I don't recall a series in which I felt more embarrassment against the Mets. Had a tough time recalling one, really. Really, really tough. So the Mets embarrassingly swept the Yankees' asses right out of Queens and led to their 4th consecutive series in a row. Now they find themselves in Toronto at risk of losing their 5th in a row tomorrow on Sunday, today for you guys, as I said earlier on, if they lose this game to end this 4-game weekend set. Started on Thursday, and the embarrassment from Queens picked up right where it left off. Even in the starting pitching arena. You had Cole on Tuesday, and then Gil on Wednesday, piling on to what has been 2 or 3 starts in a row now that have not been good for him at all. And speaking of guys who have been putrid for 2 or 3 starts in a row, how about Mr. Rodon, who just a couple of weeks ago, 3 starts ago, heading into a start in Boston, had a 2.93 ERA. Boy, don't you miss those good times? Because after the first inning of this game, let alone the fact that it continued into the second inning when he allowed 3 more runs to his 5 in the first inning without recording a single out, Now he finds his ERA at 4.42. Did you know that after his second inning was completed, as of at the time, his prior 9 2/3 innings pitched, Carlos Rodon had allowed 20 runs. You did not mishear me. In just a little bit more of what, in total, would have been a full game, plus 2 more outs. On 3 separate occasions, of course, he had allowed 20 runs.
Holy crap!
Yeah, you think? His ERA is now 4.42 from 2.93 3 starts ago. 3. And he continues to throw his little hissy fits. As a matter of fact, in this game, in a game where this travesty continues to be, just like the prior two, all his fault, Ben Rice makes a little mistake at first base, and he aggressively throws the ball towards him. A guy who has never seen any sort of major league action prior to the last 2 weeks or so, since Rizzo went down, whatever specific day that was, off the top of my head, a couple of weeks now, has never been in the major leagues prior to that, brand new rookie, has done a very nice job overall, is not his fault at all that Carlos Rodon, since Boston, has chosen to completely tank his own season, and now he's taking his frustration out on the brand new, learning, inexperienced rookie first baseman, who, again, mind you, has overall done quite a nice job. That doesn't sit well with me. I'm sorry. Carlos Rodon has officially pissed me the hell off. I don't know what the hell's going on with him. The emotions got to be controlled a little bit more, especially considering who he did it against in those circumstances, with the amount of runs that he himself gave up. Because, mind you, every single one of these runs was earned, so it's all on him. Just like the prior 2 starts were all on him. I don't care how he managed to bounce back in them after the extreme damage was done. He had 8 strikeouts. Oh, who gives a crap? He managed to go through 5 innings, even though he gave up 8 runs in the first 2 and 5 in the first inning without recording it out. I cannot tell you how little I care. 10 hits, 8 runs. That's what I look at. ERA up about a full 1.5 in 3 starts alone. That's what I look at. Phil Bickford came in after him and gave up another run. That's what I look at as well, because he has been absolutely terrible. Jake Cousins, along with his nice performance today here on Saturday, happened to pitch an inning 2/3, very nice, scoreless then, but the damage was, again, long since done. But because of Rodon's genius work that he seems insistent on continuing, 3 starts in a row now and counting, and Phil Bickford continuing to be incompetent after him, another recent Yankee bomb of a pickup, 9 runs from the Blue Jays, 8 of them again in the first 2 innings. Yankees only managed to score 2 runs of their own on a Trent Grisham 2-run shot in the top of the 5th when they were down by 8. Final score 9-2. So Carlos Rodon, I don't know what the hell's going on with you, man. But between Verdugo, him, and much of the team at large, that Boston series seemed to have thrown things off quite a bit. I'm not really sure why, because that series even started off very nicely. Very good first game. But then after that, something happened. And guys like Verdugo and him in particular, along with many others, but them on the extreme end, most notably. It's a problem. Rodon is out of control. Temper-wise, maturity-wise, or lack thereof, and actually skill-wise. The lack of adjusting is staggering to me in live time. Obviously, they're all over his fastball. He just keeps on throwing it. All over the fastball. Let's keep on doing it. No mixing up of pitches. Game plan absolutely horrible. Obviously, the other teams are adjusting just fine, absolutely beautifully. All over his pitches, but no adjusting in lifetime. Pitches are flat. The whole 9 yards. Any factor you want to think of how a pitcher could possibly bomb, Carlos Rodon has done in his last 3 starts in a row, and it continued in this Blue Jays series to start it. absolutely disgusting. And against Ben Rice, of all people, you're going to take your frustration out on. And continue to throw your little hissy fits. That at this point, once you've been this bad, I hate to turn on the guy last minute, but I also stuck my neck out for this guy as well. I said this would be a big-time bounce-back season. In his defense, before the Boston start, it very much was. But these 3 starts have been so bad, these last 3, that has actually completely derailed everything. I said that he would probably win 15-plus games this year, have an ERA of 3.15 or less, 3.10 or less. Well, the 15 games are still possible. The ERA, unless he just is near perfect for so many starts in a row, you kiss that goodbye. So, you stick your neck out for people, you believe in them, and they were doing great only to completely and utterly fall apart by their own hand. It's irritating. And just the way he's going about it and handling it as well, or not handling it. I'm pissed. All I was saying after the 5 runs and no outs recorded, I was like, get this guy out of my face. Get him out. Get him out. Terrible. And yesterday was the really good game, of course. Stroman was in the game, and speaking of temper tantrums, he had another one. He had a mediocre outing, 4 1/3, 5 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Kept the ball in the park, no homers, but after him, everybody, for the most part, pitched nicely. Tonkin pitched nicely in inning 2/3, only a run. Weaver an inning, a run himself, and then Canely and Tim Hill, granted the game was way out of reach for the Blue Jays at that point, pitched nicely as well, but Stroman also on a slow ground ball by Vlad, just short, turned very quickly as humanly possible by both Volpe and Glaber in the middle infield. Vlad just happened to beat it out. By the way, he's lost a lot of weight, and I do think, as much as I don't like the guy, personally, I think he does look better without the dreads. The short hair, I think he actually looks all right. But credit to him, he beat out a ground ball that was probably just hit a little bit too slow, but turned as quickly as humanly possible up the middle, in the middle infield by Volpe and Glaber. But if you read Stroman's lips, he was really fired up that inning, and he appeared to say, just throw the effing ball, bro. And then when he got taken out of the game, he went into the dugout. The temper tantrum continued on. He was visibly frustrated. Judge even went over to talk to him a little bit later on. Apparently, they claimed that he was really telling him that, sorry, I didn't play that ball, the leadoff hit in that inning that Stroman got really pissed off in. Sorry, I played that on a hop and didn't try to make a better attempt at that. And Stroman said, no, I didn't think he had an attempt to begin with because it was too shallow. But still, everyone thought that Judge, as the captain, went over to him and said, that's really not how we do things here, and so on and so forth. And while I don't believe in publicly flipping out at teammates in front of the entire world like that, I will say that in times like this, I do admire some spirit shown rather than guys looking like they're just walking corpses when the team is struggling. The guy's showing passion. And I know what some people are saying, oh, Rodon did the same thing. Why are you condoning Stroman's actions? I'll get to that in a second. Give me a second. But I appreciate the passion shown. And more so, I appreciate the fact that right after Glaber had homered, the first one out of the dugout to give him a hug was Marcus Stroman. They appeared to iron things out. Glaber didn't seem to have any issue with anything. I think Stroman thought he could have turned the ball quicker, but upon watching the replay, it was turned pretty freaking quickly. It was. If there's anyone that's going to go after Glaber, it's me, but even I have to admit, it was turned as quickly as possible. He couldn't have done a better job. But Glaber seemed fine with it. Judge seemed okay with it, especially after their talk. Stroman even put out a tweet about it saying, listen, emotions get the best of me. That's what happens when someone cares about winning, especially with this team as much as I do. Passion gets the best of us in live competition at times. I'm very competitive, but I do apologize. So he basically came forward and apologized, which basically should be the end of it, and him and everybody on the Yankees just appeared to want to move on, and that's all good. That combined with Soto's huge home run that I played the clip for you with before, it seemed like everything was okay, and that seemed to be a couple of the things combined that could have lit a fire underneath the Yankees' asses, like I said before, and then they, of course, played the way they did today here on Saturday. Another discussion entirely. But all these things combined, I actually thought it was good for the team to see that kind of emotion coming out of somebody. The difference between Stroman and Rodon is not only who they chose to do this against, not that it's any better to do it against Glaber or Rice because they're both teammates and you don't want to visibly flip out at either of them in the public eye like that. But not for nothing, some guys internally are probably a little bit frustrated with Glaber Torres. I know they probably act like a family and they're very supportive of each other, but probably at least a little bit baffled as how bad he's been. And he's had a lot of trouble on defense. That goes without saying. So a little bit more understanding there, even though on that play it did nothing wrong. A little bit more general understanding, I would say. And plus, Stroman has actually been pretty good of late. This is a mediocre outing, but he's been pretty stable of late overall. So he has that to hang his hat on. Something that Rodon very much does not. But it is also who it is specifically against. Ben Rice is a kid. He's a rookie. He just started weeks ago. Still completely honing his craft at first base. Not 100% yet, but still doing a fine job there overall. And with Rodon, the damage the last 3 times out has been far more severe than any of Stroman's outings. And it's all been his fault. All of it. Not to mention that now it's happened 3 times in a row with little to no adjustments being made at all. Very different from Stroman's situation. So that's the difference for me, or differences. Those are them. Now, it doesn't condone the flipping out in the public eye by either, but at least Stroman also owned up to it in as many ways as he possibly could. Post-game, tweeting, everything. They even spoke about it even more today. But now, especially now that it's all done with, I wish everyone would just stop about it. Because at the end of the day, the guy showed emotion. He's been good lately. Part of it might have been even trying to fire everybody up. Sometimes it usually comes in the form of the manager maybe getting thrown out of the game on a bad call. Umpire throws him out, fires the team up. But maybe that was a part of it. I personally, as long as it's warranted, I don't feel like after 3 starts in a row now at this point that Rodon's is 100% warranted. It's getting old at this point and frustrating to even watch. But with Stroman, where the overall circumstances and the scenarios are different, I wasn't really quite as bothered by it, if I'm being really honest with you. And most importantly, now that it's done with, he's apologized, everybody seems to have moved on. Let's all, as fans, do this as well, because it's just a non-factor at this point. It doesn't matter. It's all done with. Talking about it at this point, it's probably just you trying to draw attention to yourself. It's done. And maybe try to grow a bit of a thicker skin as well, because people show emotion, and Stroman was just generally frustrated. Hasn't been that bad of late. Makes more sense to come from him. Other than all of this nonsense, offensively is the main story in this game because, as I said before, with the clip that I played of Soto's massive 3-run shot, that's when everything came to life. J.D. Davis even got in on it. That's when you know. RBI double. Gleyber Torres even had a 2-run homer. That's also when you know. And then when the Blue Jays crept a little closer to make it 7-5, after that, Verdugo got an RBI double. DJ, this was the extra base hit I mentioned before earlier in the show. The first one in the entire month he's been back. RBI double, 9-5. Aaron Judge, 2-run single, making his day even better. Oswaldo, RBI double. Gleyber sac fly. Verdugo, RBI single. Trevino, RBI double. Jahmai Jones, RBI single. 16-5, as I said earlier, at the end of all of this. And that was the final. And that's why I said I thought everything was going to change for the better finally after the last couple of weeks, but it didn't. Even with Stroman having allowed a run again in the first inning yesterday, despite what the Yankees ultimately did, again it started the exact same way this day, but with Nestor instead. With Vlad Guerrero Jr. taking him deep to right center field in the first inning, making it 2-0. So once again, the frequent theme of this past week returns. The Yankees having to dig themselves out of a hole early. And they did not do such a great job at doing that. Nestor ended up allowing another run in the 4th inning on an Alejandro Kirk RBI double. So that made it 3-0. And the Yankees finally managed to break through on a Judge RBI single. I'm just shocked. So that made it 3-1 at the time. But then immediately in the bottom of the 6th, thanks to Phil Bickford and Mr. Caleb Ferguson combined, 5 more runs came home to score, another one in the 8th for the Blue Jays, and just 2 more were driven in by the Yankees in the top of the 9th, where they were down 9-1 on a 2-run homer by Austin Wells. Final score, 9-3. Nestor Cortez's final line, 4 1/3, 7 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Mediocre outing today. So right back to business. Yankees just looking like crap once again as they get ready for the final game of the set today when you're listening, but tomorrow for me as I'm recording. Cole against Gossman. We'll see how the series ends. This one is at 1:30. And then as far as what's ahead, Monday they're off, thank God. Tuesday, July 2nd, they come back home. Hopefully that changes things too. We can only hope. To face the Cincinnati Reds, as I had alluded to earlier on in the show. No pitching matchups announced for any of these as of yet at the time that I'm recording at least. But on Tuesday, July the 2nd, that game will be at 7:05 Eastern in the Bronx. 7:05 Eastern once again on Wednesday the 3rd. This will be an Amazon Prime Video game for the Yankees as usual on Wednesdays. Really annoying. Then on the 4th of July, Independence Day, the Yankees and the Reds will be playing the final game of their 3-game set at the stadium, 1:05 Eastern. And then Friday, next weekend, starts a big weekend series against the Boston Red Sox. Might not be so big in the grand scheme of things, some of you might be thinking, but the reason that I say it's big is because I will be at the game on the 6th. As a reminder, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but just another reminder to you guys, for those who may still be listening to the show this deep in. If you are, then you're a real one. But if you're there on Saturday, July 6th, I will be there. Come by and see me and my girlfriend Victoria. We'd love to hang with you. But Friday the 5th, that game will be at 7:05 Eastern. Saturday the 6th, when I will be present, will be at 1:05 Eastern. And Sunday the 7th, when we shall yap again, will be at 7:10 Eastern, an ESPN Sunday night game. So I'll probably either be reacting to that in real time as I tape on that day, or I'll record earlier on in the day before that game. We'll see what happens. But otherwise, that is what is ahead, and that is all for the weekly recap. Thank God. There's enough irritating things to go over in this past week's weekly recap to last me a few weeks, to say the least. You know what I actually just realized, though, upon going through this past week's games? In the last 5 games, since the Mets series started, 5 games, only in one did they not allow at least 9 runs. That's terrible. Oh my God. The only game they didn't allow at least 9 runs was Friday, when they allowed 5. They allowed 9 on Tuesday, 12 on Wednesday, 9 on Thursday, 5 Friday, and then today here on Saturday, 9. They allowed at least 9 runs every day this week, except for one. The pitching. The offense really hasn't done all that much outside of Friday as well, and outside of Judge on Tuesday alone, pretty much. But, my God. Holy mother of pearl. I'm speechless, really. A lot of it's thanks to guys like Ferguson and Bickford and the starting pitchers doing as terribly as they've been doing for the most part, especially early on in games, but that just jumped out at me. Wow. So what a note to leave you on to end the weekly recap segment. Let's please move on. Last but certainly not least, let us move on to our social media segment to wrap up the show as always. It's been a little while since we did this, so I chose to change it up a little bit for this week's episode. But I chose to do a Q&A this week, so you ask and I answer. I'll take about 10 or so questions as I usually do when I do these segments, so hopefully I got some good questions for you guys. I'm sure there'll be nothing but positive. God. First up, first question that I got here. We'll start off with @YankeeKen, and he asks, when will Cashman build a roster built for 6 months instead of 2? I'll hang up and listen. I guess that also has to do with whenever they feel like not getting hurt anymore. I guess that's a big part of it. Because I even saw someone talking about on Twitter yesterday, and they were right. I mean, granted, it's very small stuff, but still, they're like, Soto played 162 last year, even in his case, not to crap on Soto or anything. I'm the last one to ever do that. But, last year, he played 162, and then he's always been very durable throughout his young career so far. And then he comes here like many do, and the bug just bites them right away. He has a couple of small things that leave him out for a couple of days and a couple of different spurts. So it's just like some sort of a curse the Yankees have had for a long time now. I don't know. Just the injuries, they never end. They never, ever end. And it seems like it has the capability of hitting just absolutely anybody, even someone as durable as Soto, as much as he has been throughout his early career, and that's primarily why I used him as an example there. But I guess it's just when these guys manage to stop finally getting hurt all the time. I guess that's when it'll happen. Because, yeah, there are definitely certain areas of the roster at all times where you usually say, Cashman probably could have done that better. But a big amount of the reason is injuries a lot of the time. Not to use that as an excuse, because eventually that runs really stale. But at times, that's a big reason. So hopefully they find a way to just prevent guys from getting hurt all the time. But that's an epidemic around the whole league, too. It's just injuries all the time. Up next, my good friend James at Rebirth Chaos 09 asks, can the Yankees turn it around, and what will they do about the offense and bullpen? Well, what will they do or what should they do? Because those are two different answers. As far as the bullpen, again, kind of a get some guys back from injury sort of a thing. Again, I'm very interested in seeing what Scott Efros has to offer after being gone for so long. And just getting a couple of quality relievers that actually pitch more strikes than balls and maybe go for strikeouts more than contact. I'm not saying pitching to contact is a bad thing, but when damn near every single pitcher out in your bullpen does that, it could result in a lot of hard contact eventually and a lot of runs scored. And we've seen a lot of that with the Yankee bullpen, especially with guys like Phil Bickford and plenty of other names who were just recently picked up who have been DFA'd 11,000 times. So, got to get more strikeout guys, in my opinion. Guys who throw more strikes. A name I've heard a ton from the Marlins would be Tanner Scott. Could possibly be like a potential blockbuster-like trade. It would cost a lot, but that could definitely be a route that I look at if I'm the Yankees. Just anybody that throws a lot of strikes, gets a lot of strikeouts. And as much as I do think Tanner Scott's a great pitcher, one thing that does jump out to me, unfortunately, though, is the fact that he does give up a lot of walks. That's the problem. So a bit of an issue with the strike throwing at times, but he does have more strikeouts than innings pitched usually, and quite a bit more. So the strikeout to innings pitched ratio is very good. The ERA is very good, but especially the last couple of years in particularly. But yeah, the walks freak me out a little bit. But that would definitely be a route that I look at, because I still think he's better than a lot of the options the Yankees have out there right now. Because like I said, with what the Yankees have out there right now, a few of the names are tough to beat as far as getting people who are much worse, to be honest with you. Like when you have a bullpen that is mainly headlined right now by guys like Michael Tonkin, and no disrespect towards them, I mean, they're doing very good, especially Tonkin, which nobody expected. But it's being headlined primarily by guys like Tonkin, and even though he's gotten into a little bit of trouble himself in recent outings, Luke Weaver. That's really it. There aren't really many more consistently reliable arms out there in the Yankee bullpen currently. It's got to be pretty bad at this point. And as far as the offense, well, first off, get Juan Soto back into the lineup. That certainly won't hurt things. And missing Stanton to injury right now really stings because he was actually being productive, as we've spoken about. And honestly, as far as the biggest problems on the field right now, other than missing guys like Stanton and Soto being out of the lineup, it seems like it's temporary, as we've established. But I think the main couple of things that need to be done right now is I think Glaber needs to be taken away. And I think in his place, I don't think it would hurt to give someone like Yorbit Vivas a chance for a little while at least, see what he's got. I don't think it would hurt at all. And not really giving DJ LeMahieu any more playing time either. And a name that I've seen thrown around a lot for potential infield options, because the two biggest problems, like I've said, I'm okay with giving Ben Rice first base and letting him play his heart out over there and continue to take his next steps as a Major League Baseball player. I'm okay with that. But the biggest problems right now are the infield overall at second and third. Yorbit Vivas I would put at second, see how he manages there for a little while, and then I would probably acquire someone in the likes of Luis Rengifo from the Angels. Now, again, in this case, too, I expect the Angels to ask for quite a bit if the Yankees were to look into getting him, but you're talking about a high-average guy, puts the bat to ball, and is very quick, very fast, and he also happens to be able to play second, third, and short. So you would also, in the event of maybe Anthony Volpe needing a day off, or God forbid, knock on wood, especially after what happened on Friday night, possibly even getting hurt at some point, you would finally have a serviceable backup for him, but primarily picking it up at third base. And you want to talk about the complete contrast to what DJ LeMahieu has given you? Rengifo, you would get that. So, honestly, that would be someone I look into getting for third base, second base, give it to Vivas for a while, leave Ben Rice at first, Anthony Volpe at short, get Stanton back from injury, hopefully in the later part of July at the latest. Give Austin Wells some more playing time at catcher if I'm the Yankees. Just hope that Verdugo figures it out until maybe Dominguez is ready to go, even though he's nowhere close. I don't know. Just you got to hope that Verdugo just figures it out and snaps out of whatever funk he's in since the Boston series. And then, of course, you continue to ride with Judge and Soto. That's common sense. I think that would immediately shift things. So that's what I would do with the offense. What they actually do, I could not tell you. I think they're just going to ride it the way it is as best as they could until guys like Stanton come back. I don't see them making any immediate changes with Glaber, unfortunately. So, that's my opinion on what should happen, James, personally. Up next, we have Rebecca at Peace Now for Life. And Rebecca asks, would you keep Ben Rice at first or go out and get a more experienced first baseman at the deadline? I'd keep him at first. I like a lot of the fundamentals that I have seen from Ben Rice since he's come up. And I think there are a lot of things he can continue to build on as he gains more experience. I like the potential he's shown at the plate. I like the maneuverability at first base. He's made a couple of mistakes here and there, but listen, he's a rookie. It happens. So I would definitely be more than down to give him more experience there. And it shows how much the Yankees actually value him because as of today's lineup scratch of Juan Soto, they've moved him all the way up to second. And especially in his first couple at bats, he made it pretty easy. And I'm no discount to Juan Soto or anything. I'm just saying this for the sake of it. But he made you temporarily forget that Juan Soto was out of the lineup because he got a single, then a double. So for a day, he did some good by that 2-hole in Juan Soto's absence. So I think they value him. I just think they have to make sure they don't sacrifice his playing time for someone like J.D. Davis or even Oswaldo if he's covering first base for a bit, or even DJ LeMahieu covering first base. Don't take away his playing time for any of these guys. Ben Rice should be playing. And until the event that things get legitimately awful with him and it's really looking like he just needs some more time to cook down in the minors, absolutely, keep him out there. Let him keep learning. Laura at Laura_Icemont, my good friend Laura, asks, what are your biggest concerns with the team as their bad stretch continues? Well, primarily what I said before. The fact that they definitely, at this point, need some more relievers. They need some reliever help. And second and third base, Glaber and DJ. Of course, Verdugo slumping is a huge deal, and he has killed the Yankees recently in a lot of big potential offensive moments. That's a big concern, but I'm choosing to believe that at one point or another he's going to snap out of it. I'm just praying at this point. Because it's not like, again, like I said before, it's not like they have Dominguez at their immediate disposal to put out there in the event of things going wrong right now, so that's not good. But really right now, it's primarily DJ and Glaber. And Glaber, since he got his couple of days off, has looked better. But again, that's just very recently. He's had his good spurts here and there, and then just goes right back to being terrible. So that could very well happen again. So I'm not getting amped up for that whatsoever. I've seen the cheap parlor tricks by Glaber by now. I've seen the puppet master behind the curtain, if you will. So not getting amped up about that. My concern with him is still very much alive and as strong as ever. Same thing with DJ. You replace those two, get some better guys in the field, both, well, defensively in Glaber's case, because DJ's glove is still good, but especially offensively in both cases, I think you'll see a lot of difference right away. A lot of difference. Get Stanton back from injury, and then we ride, honestly. And also the starting pitchers have got to stop putting the team in really early holes, because, with a team that's already struggling offensively for the most part, it does not help to have them feeling like they got to dig themselves out of early holes literally every single day. That's just not conducive to winning. At Andrew Caruso 77 says, if the Yankees try to move Glaber at the deadline, what would you like to see them get in return? Would you package him with somebody else? Thanks so much, Mike. Well, thank you for the question, Andrew. Quite frankly, I think the Yankees would be pretty fortunate, and I'd be very happy with this return. I think a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos would be pretty appropriate as a return. And I think I'd give Cashman quite a bit of credit for pulling something like that off, if I'm being really honest with you. Package him with somebody else. I mean, if you want anything other than maybe a snack bag, like I just said before, then yeah, you'll have to package somebody else. He's definitely just a name you throw in there at this point. His value is little to none, regardless of which side of the ball you're talking about, defense, offense, even base running, really. So, yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that return, and I'm not even really joking either. That's truly, give or take, around the return that I think a trade with him can result in. I'm not even remotely joking. Because Glaber especially annoys me, because remember also earlier today, well, here on Saturday, He had that beautiful diving play on a line drive up the middle, and then he also got the double up at third base. So he can make very nice plays. That's the irritating thing about Gleyber that some people seem to forget. There are times where he will let the talent out that we have seen since he started in 2018. There are times that he has alluded to being able to do incredible things. But then he just ends up being his own worst enemy every single time, getting in his own head and just doing boneheaded crap every time. He's probably one of the more frustrating Yankees I've ever seen in my near 20 years watching. Because you know it's there. He's just nonchalant and always in his own head being his own worst enemy. And that results in him being a crappy baseball player. That's what's irritating about Gleyber primarily. But he has driven his value so far down at this point that I'd be happy with getting really nothing in return, honestly. You definitely have to package him with somebody else, otherwise you get nothing back. So that's my honest answer, Andrew. I'm not even just trying to be an ass. That's truly my honest answer with that. At Cashman Sucks NYY says, what is your preferred lineup with the current roster as constructed? Well, like even with Soto out right now, or does that not count as he's not officially IL'd technically? Because with Soto, I happen to think 1 through 3 is pretty good right now. Volpe, Soto, Judge. I don't really know how you could switch that up right now. Even though Volpe's been taking his boneheaded at-bats of late, I mean, who else are you going to put in leadoff right now that would be better? I would probably, if the Yankees were to acquire someone like this in a trade, if the Yankees were to acquire someone like Luis Rengifo, I'd probably put Rengifo in leadoff because, I mean, his average is through the roof, puts the bat to ball, gets on base a lot, and he's really fast too, which could result in stolen bases, getting into scoring position immediately for Soto and or Judge. So if they were to acquire somebody like that, I'd be down for putting someone in the leadoff spot like that and maybe moving Volpe a little bit down again. But other than that, I don't really have anybody who I think would be better in that spot as of right now. So keep 1 through 3 the same. And honestly, I know he's brand new, but both for the sake of the fact that I've liked what I've seen at the plate from him so far and the fact that he's a lefty, to keep that righty-lefty dynamic going after Judge, I put Ben Rice in cleanup. Screw it. Especially right now. I put Ben Rice in cleanup. And then maybe 5th after him, maybe I'd put Verdugo at that point. So 2 lefties in a row, that's okay, I guess. Then I guess Gleyber after that at 6. Then I put Wells at catcher, 7th, keep on that left, right, left. And then I guess since you have him right now, you kind of have to play him. And for the DH position, I think that'd be best for him. I guess J.D. Davis, DH, batting 8th. And then I guess DJ/Oswaldo for third base, batting 9th. So you have Volpe at short leading off, Soto and right batting 2nd, Judge at 3rd and center. In cleanup, I'd have Rice at 1st. Then Verdugo on left batting 5th. 6th is Gleyber at 2nd. 7th, Wells at catcher. 8th, J.D. Davis at DH. And then 9th, DJ/Oswaldo Cabrera at third base. I guess that'd be my lineup right now. But again, in the event that they acquire someone like Rengifo, or if they give someone like Yorbeat Vivas a chance, when they get Stanton back from injury, this lineup looks very different. So keep that in mind. You just said as currently constructed. So right now, with Soto coming back, hopefully, I hope on Tuesday, that is my lineup. So if you guys agree, let me know. I'm very curious to see what you think. At Rebel FD asks, when will the bats wake up? I wish I had a good answer for that. Hopefully for Sunday. I mean, it's going to be tough because you're likely not going to have Soto, so that helps absolutely nothing. I also just don't want them to lose their 5th consecutive series. That would suck. But, yeah, I don't really have a good answer for you because, like I said, the main topic of the show, not really understanding what it's going to take for them, especially after Friday, to go right back to the way they played today, I'm not really sure. Hopefully Sunday. Hopefully. At Mike B_923 asks, how about a Yankee Stadium question? Where's your favorite spot to watch the game from, excluding suites and club seats? And what's your favorite food at the stadium? That's a good question. I like those. Favorite spot? I would say anywhere in foul territory. I love sitting in foul territory right up the line. Love that. Especially right near the dugout. That's an optimal spot for me. Absolutely love it. And food? Primarily, I don't eat that much food at the stadium, believe it or not. I'll actually get Sabrett hot dogs outside the stadium because I'm a huge fan of hot dogs, for those who don't know. I'm just addicted to them. I love them so much. And the Sabrett hot dogs are just god tier for me. And the ones right outside the stadium, I could eat 4 of those things. And I have before in one sitting, just freaking murder them. So that's primarily what I do when I get to the stadium. I'll occasionally have some like fries or popcorn in the stadium sometimes, but I don't really indulge all that much. But good questions, Mike. Thanks for that. Next, we've got my good friend Spencer. Spencer, hope you and the family have been well, my guy. God bless you all. Been thinking of you, buddy, really. And he asks, hi, Mike. I love Sunday Night Baseball, but I have an aversion to Eduardo Perez. To me, his vocals give me an image of choking on his uvula. Oh, my God. Just curious if there are any announcers which make you cringe the way Perez makes me cringe. Thanks, and hope all is well. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate the question. I hope you're doing well, too. You know that. I hate to give this answer because people are going to think I'm sexist, but I'm anything but, and I think anybody who knows me would know that, so I don't really feel the need to explain that, but I'm going to have to give an unfortunate answer, and that's the Oakland A's woman announcer. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. It really doesn't. It's just her calls. And I know it probably results in what from it sounds like to me, it sounds like inexperience, which to me it's not really responsible to put the first woman commentator in there and almost give a bad look to women by not having her very experienced and just putting her in there just to be the first woman. I know that there are plenty of really talented, truly skilled woman broadcasters out there. I've met many of them myself, even just coming up in the industry. And I think a lot of them with the right training would be so good to be the first woman this, first woman that in the broadcasting industry. But I think in this case with her name is Jenny Kavnar, by the way, but she became the first woman play-by-play broadcaster for Major League Baseball, and she broadcasts for the Oakland A's, of course. And there are just a lot of either cringe or just blatantly bad calls, like just calls that someone who's really not very experienced would make. Like Brent Rooker hitting a bomb of a home run in Kansas City a few weeks back, and she's like, this ball's got a chance, maybe a chance to go to the moon. Balls hit like 450, 460 feet. It's like silly crap like that. I think there was some with Jose Siri hitting a home run at one point when he had already hit one earlier in the game, and she tried to make a little cute play with words saying, hey Siri, it's not your night, even though he already hit a home run earlier in the game. Just stupid things like that. Not to mention that an expression like that is also cringe. And I don't know, just the occasional lack of enthusiasm with some of her calls, or maybe forced enthusiasm at times. You could definitely tell when something's forced. It just comes right across. But I don't know. She just makes me cringe out of my skin. Again, nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. I've heard plenty of women commentators in the industry, and they've been fantastic. I mean, Susan Waldman. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Susan's voice, but I think she is just about as knowledgeable as anybody, and she's great at what she does. I love Susan. So listen, it's got nothing to do with that whole conversation. I'm not nearly that shallow, but with Jenny in particularly, I think just about anybody would agree with me. And I kind of understand what you think about Perez. His voice has always kind of annoyed me, too. It just sounds like something's in his throat. So, yeah, I actually agree with you there, Spencer. Totally understand what you're saying. At MMonch26 asks, at what point does Peraza get a chance to play? Does Boone have something on Cashman other than he's in terrible company? That's 2. I don't know. I think Boone is actually at his better season, one of his better seasons as manager this year, if I'm being honest, although he's definitely made his stupid mistakes as always. But on an overall basis, especially in like the first couple of months of the season, I really couldn't find much of anything to disagree with Boone on, to be honest with you. Also, that's usually how it goes when the team plays as well as it did throughout the first couple of months, so there's that too. But I think he's actually had one of his better seasons, believe it or not. But the bullpen management still seems to expose itself, especially in tougher times. Not that he has very many people to turn to in the first place nowadays, but I don't know. Never been too big of a fan of Boone's personally, as we know. And at what point does Peraza get a chance to play? Well, maybe when he does better in the minors. I mean, I'm as sympathetic to him as anybody is when it comes to how many times the Yankees have brought him back up and sent him back down in the recent past and really screwed up his value, but he's also been getting hurt a ton. And since he's been back down in the minors, in 32 games in AAA, is currently batting .198 with an on-base percentage barely above .320, slugging of .240, and an OPS of .564. And he's really shown little to no power whatsoever either. So the pop is gone. So I suppose when he actually earns a chance, he will get said chance. I'd be much more compelled to call him up and just put him right in there for Glaber if he were the overwhelmingly better choice, but he's not playing like he is right now. So as sympathetic as I am for the recent past of Peraza with his injuries and how the Yankees have just sent him back down and up and down and up for the past couple of years, at the moment, he's not really playing like he deserves a chance definitively. So there's that too. I just got to be honest with that. All right, I think now's a good time to go to our final two as per usual. First up is my lovely girlfriend at Vic Salimo, and she asks, this coming Saturday is my first Yankees-Red Sox in-person experience. What should I expect? Well, yeah, again, nice little shout-out, nice little plug and promo to me and Vic being at the game this coming Saturday the 6th. But, yeah, I mean, babe, what can I say? It is, it's a lot of chaos. It's a lot of fun. I've been to a Yankees-Red Sox game or two in my time. It's just a bunch of fun. Just strap yourself in and enjoy. That's really the only advice that I could give. Obviously, I'll be there with you. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it's going to be chaos, as it should be. And I love how it often is, regardless of how either team happens to be doing. That's one of the special things. Is the rivalry much less than it used to be? Absolutely, in my opinion, definitely. There's definitely been more of a downturn in the rivalry, but it's still fun, in my opinion. Still a blast. So my advice is strap yourself in for the chaos nonetheless. Last but certainly not least is my mom, Julia Gina Scudero, and she says, I'm getting a very heavy feeling these players are giving up. This is year 3 that they're starting strong, and then out of nowhere, they collapse like a house of cards. Inconsistency with the bad gameplay, and then a sudden 16-5 win on Friday, and their blank looks on their faces. The talent is there. It shows, obviously. Judge, Soto, and Volpe cannot make a whole team. My question to you, as must be with everyone, do you think they'll come out of this? Yeah, I think they definitely can. And listen, I even mentioned that I'm even trying to do the best I can to fend off my 2022 PTSD, because in the situation that you described, starting out strong and then collapsing, that was especially apparent in 2022. In 2023, they actually started off pretty decently. I think they were 10, 15 games over 500 at one point at the start of last year as well. But then that came down crashing hard, especially around the time Judge got hurt, especially. So it was a little bit of the case last year, too, despite the horrific end result. So I understand what you're saying. There's a lot of PTSD to go around, and I think that's why a lot of people's patience are a bit lower than some might expect, in particularly. But I'm trying my best to stave that off a bit, and I do think the Yankees have a better team than they did in either season. Most importantly, they have Juan Soto. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but for the most part, they've had Juan Soto, and look at the job he's done. So I think that makes a big difference. And like I said, you make a couple of those changes at the deadline and that I mentioned before, even if not all of them, make at least one or two of them. And you get Stanton back from injury and you go from there. But I do think that they can come out of this, absolutely. I'm still hoping there's just sort of an extended slump for their sake, more so than anything, really. But I definitely think if those improvements are made, or maybe even a little bit before that, if certain guys just wake up and get their act together, they can definitely come out of it. Absolutely. I'm still not full on panicking, but, some alarms are going off. That's basically where I'm at. And I'm just praying for the best for this coming week, my friends, because that's the best I can do. But as of right now, other than that, that is all for episode 225 of Yapping Yankees today, my friends. Thanks so much for all the questions. Good questions today. Even some a little bit off subject, perhaps, but still Yankee-related. Really interesting. I do have a lot of fun answering questions, so I should do some more Q&As, but, just a lot based off of what's happening a lot of the time. Just the questions from me just flow right out, and they end up being pretty popular, so... Just a couple of quick reminders, as always, before I head on out today, though. Remember to follow me on all social medias. Facebook fan page, Mike Scudero NY. Twitter or X at Mike Scudero. Instagram, Mike Scuds97. And subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all 4 platforms. It is available on, my friends, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Like, subscribe, comment, show your love across all of them. And if you've missed any Yapping Yankees episodes from the past, listen to episodes 34 up to 225 today on YouTube, and every single episode of Yapping Yankees going all the way back to the very first up to today. Those are all available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. But once again, I thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today. As always, my good friends, I have been your host, Mike Scudero, and we shall yap again next Sunday, July 7th, when I come at you with episode 226 of Yapping Yankees. The episodes just continue to tick up and up and up. But until then, guys, as always, hang in there. Be patient. Stay safe. Look out for your loved ones. Go ahead and kick life's ass this week. Have a happy and safe 4th of July. And Yanks, wake the hell up. At least for when I'm back at the stadium on the 6th, if nothing else, huh? Enough already. Change the dynamic starting on Sunday. Today for you, tomorrow for me. And just keep it going against the Reds and take it to the Red Sox. Just turn it around already. What's it going to take? Hopefully, by next week, we have more positives to discuss, my friends, especially after finally making it back to the stadium for the first time in 2024. But until then, until next Sunday, take care, my friends, and let's go Yanks!